Welcome back. I'm Bree Payton in for Liz Wheeler. Just when you thought the outrage couldn't get any more ridiculous, feminists are up in arms about a congressional dress code. Just this week, comedian Chelsea Handler tweeted, quote, Paul Ryan enforcing dress code in the speaker's lobby in the U.S. Capitol that bans women from showing their shoulders. Welcome to Abu Dhabi. But the fact is, the dress codes on the Hill have existed for years, and they don't oppress women. With me now is Federalist contributor Ash Scow. Ash, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me on.
I want to know what your take on all of this is. Is the dress code exactly like Abu Dhabi, which is a city in the United Arab Emirates, which is a country where female genital mutilation is no big deal? Are these two the same, or is this an overreaction?
It's a complete overreaction. This is absurd. Nancy Pelosi enforced this. It's been around for decades. I mean, I think, under George W. Bush, that's when it might have been enforced the most. But this is just, men have a dress code as well. Suits and ties. And it's just one room in the Capitol. It's not the entire Capitol. It's not like as soon as women walk in, they're like, hey, cover those shoulders. No, it's one room, and men have a dress code as well. And, to be frank, I don't understand. I'm always cold, so, I feel like it's going to be cold in that room. Why would you want your shoulders uncovered? I mean, God bless these women that can handle it, but I get really cold.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, last year, I think the oppressive thing to women was the air conditioning in the offices, right, and how cold it is all the time. I mean, I'm cold in the studio right now. But now, I guess this year, it's sleeveless shirts is, really the remnants of the patriarchy that are crushing our souls, according to liberals. And a lot of women last week compared this dress code to The Handmaid's Tale, which is a Hulu show based on a dystopian novel of the same name about women who are, living in kind of this dystopian fiction world, and they're forced to literally bear children for the Republic of Gilead in order to prop up this theocratic and oppressive state. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about kind of this whole Handmaid's Tale narrative and a lot of the women, like the Planned Parenthood protesters, who keep dressing up like characters and handmaidens from The Handmaid's Tale. Do you think that the efforts to defund Planned Parenthood and other things that feminists are upset about is equal to the Republic of Gilead and what goes on in the fictitious Handmaid's Tale?
It's absolutely not equal. You know where it's somewhat equal, where it might be? Over in the Middle East or Southeast Asia or Africa. There might be a problem when you've got ISIS selling women into slavery, okay? That's where you might have a deal where you can claim Handmaid's Tale. But everything you don't like about Republicans, comparing it to The Handmaid's Tale, makes you look hysterical, quite honestly. And it also makes all other problems, all the problems you're talking about, look insignificant by comparison. Not being allowed to vote, not being allowed to drive, not being able to walk down the street without a male guardian just because you're a woman, having to completely cover your entire body so that no man can see you. That is oppression. You, maybe having to go to a different clinic for your birth control, not oppression.
Yeah, and Ash, why do you think that Democrats like to depict their opponents as these authoritarian brutes? It seems to me that, whenever I disagree with a feminist, or whenever, there's maybe a dress code with sleeves, it's just immediate, oh my God, Handmaid's Tale, and, you evil Republicans are just trying to oppress us all and keep us all down. Why do you think that that's the immediate reaction on the left?
Well, they've always been pretty lazy in their comebacks, right? They just scream misogyny or sexism and boom, win the conversation. But now you can see where this happened. They watched a TV show and now they're like, that's it. That's what we're going to compare everything to. It's just Republicans watching 24 and being like, yes, that's how we're going to fight terrorism. It's just stupid. It's okay, so you're watching TV and now this is how you're going to base your policy and your arguments. This is absurd because they don't line up.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And as you mentioned earlier, the sleeves rule in particular has been in place for a really long time. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, it was under her. She didn't take efforts to repeal it at all. So shouldn't we really be mad at Nancy?
We should be mad at Nancy. We should be mad at anybody. I mean, like, why is the burden on Paul Ryan to remove it just because he's a Republican? Like, why wasn't the burden, like, why weren't people like, hey, Nancy, this is oppressive? Why don't, like, wouldn't she be the most likely person to do it? But you're waiting until Paul Ryan because you hadn't heard of it until now. And that's why all the arguments are that, like, oh, he's instituted this, because they don't even know that it wasn't him. But now it's like, oh, he has to remove it. And it's like, okay, fine. Then also remove some of the dress codes for men. Men can't show their sleeveless arms either.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And also, I mean, I was surprised that this was even news at all. I mean, I knew that there were special dress codes to go into the speaker's chamber. I visited the speaker's chamber. I knew that I had to, you know, dress up a little bit more and just make sure that I was a little bit more covered up. So I'm really surprised that this really was even a story. But let's turn our attention from sleeves to bows. An MSNBC contributor, Joan Walsh, recently mocked an outfit that Ivanka Trump wore to the G20 summit, saying that it was, quote, too girly to be taken seriously. Let's watch.
She's sitting in for her father at the G20.
Right, with big bows on her sleeve. I mean, I don't mean to sound sexist. It can be dangerous to comment on what women wear. But the fact that she sat in for her father in a dress that was so incredibly ornamental was such a contradiction in terms. And I think that what we see is that in authoritarian societies, daughters have great value. They are property. And the message that she is sending about her own value, about her place in the White House, and about the place of women in this administration, I think are really pretty frightening.
Ash, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is what she said sexist?
What she said was sexist. And my response is just like, are you freaking kidding me on this? Like, Ivanka's dress was beautiful. I mean, what are we now telling, like, any woman that comes to the table, you have a dress code? It is pantsuit or nada. Like, this is absurd. Like, her dress looked fine. She didn't have, like, some giant, she didn't look like Queen Amidala out there, okay? Like, she looked like she was wearing a nice dress that set her apart because she happens to be beautiful. Like, this whole idea that now we're going to tell Ivanka what she has to wear to be taken seriously, like, really goes back to the whole thing that feminists keep saying. That's like, how dare you tell a woman how to dress? How dare you comment on her looks? How dare you make her an object? That's exactly what Joan Walsh just did.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, listening to Joan Walsh saying, oh, that outfit is too girly, that's not what she should be wearing. I mean, that seems kind of more arbitrary and more oppressive than the rules that Paul Ryan and Nancy Pelosi had in place about sleeves, right?
Exactly. Right, absolutely. It's like, oh, please, Joan Walsh, why don't you give us your dress code of how a woman should dress in order to be taken seriously? Should it be what you wear? I mean, I don't know. I think there were some photos of her going around where she didn't look great, and I don't care because she's still Joan Walsh. You can wear whatever you want. You matter. You command authority, not what you're wearing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, it seems to me that to liberal women are allowed to wear whatever they want. But then if it's Ivanka Trump or Sarah Palin or Ann Romney, oh my gosh, immediately, you know, you look terrible and you can't wear that. So, Ash, why is there this double standard?
You know the reason to that, Bree. It's just because they run the media and whatever they say is fine. But when someone else, when their opponent says it, then it becomes a problem. And they're going to continue to be this hypocritical from now until the end of days. They're kind of starting to lose their hold on it in the Trump era of fake news, where people are just getting sick of that because they're starting to see it more blatantly now, where it's just, you're just only attacking Republicans just to attack Republicans. And then when they're doing this, it starts to detract from legitimate issues. So anything that comes out about the Trump-Russia connection, so many people just discount right away because they've been so hyperbolic about other things. So it's just kind of hard to believe anything they say at this point, and they're hurting themselves. They're going to keep doing it because they've gotten away with it before.